Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Greg Core from OSEP's Monitoring and State Improvement Planning Division, and this is the second TA call that we are having in April. Before we get into today's content, I want to thank everyone for submitting your clarified state performance plan, annual performance reports. As I'm sure you are aware, the Part C SPP APRs were due yesterday. I believe they've all come in, and Part B is due today, and those are continuing to come in, but it looks like everybody will have submitted their clarified documents, excuse me, by the end of today. So thanks for all that work. You may know that April has been declared by the president as the month of the military connected child. And today OSEP will present on military connected children with special needs. As part of the month of the military child, OSEP has collaborated with members of the U.S. Department of Defense to present information which will highlight challenges that military families can experience when transitioning, as well as some resources and strategies that address ways states can improve services for military-connected infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities and their families. So without further ado, I'm going to turn our call over to OSEP's Marjorie Thompson, who is taking the lead on this effort. Marjorie?
Thank you, Greg, and thank you everybody for joining our call today. As Greg mentioned, April is the month of the military child, so we really wanted to highlight our efforts and our collaborations that we have been working on over this past year. As you know, OSEP's mission is to enhance educational outcomes for children with disabilities. We also want to support military-connected children with disabilities and address their unique challenges faced by military families. We are supporting the Joining Forces initiative, which supports not only military and veteran families, but their caregivers and survivors. As part of the month of the military child, we are committed to a social media campaign to leverage and disseminate vital resources and support. Our target audience is parents and the general public, as we're showcasing tools and services available for military-connected special education children. When you do receive this PowerPoint, you'll be able to click on the link, and it will take you to the Department of Education's Twitter account. I'm not sure it's still called Twitter. So as part of our work, we did have informational calls that we conducted with states. We were meeting with both Part C coordinators as well as Part B state directors to gather insights directly from states that had the highest number of military-connected special education children. We sent out invitations to California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Maryland, North Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and Washington. And while not everybody was able to attend the calls, we were able to identify prevalent issues and potential areas for policy advancement. States also shared policies and procedures they already had in place to support military families. Part of the work that we have been doing in OSEP is to really provide interagency collaboration. So as Greg mentioned, we have been working with the Department of Defense. We're working with the Department of Defense's Office of Special Needs, as well as DODEA. We're working with the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, as well as Office of the Undersecretary, the First Lady's Office of the White House, and Administration of Community Living. The goals of this cross collaboration is to streamline resource sharing and program coordination, implement joint initiatives that directly benefit special education, and the impact is to enhance service deliveries for military families. The role of the DoD liaison on today's call is to introduce the role and activities of the liaison in each regions, as well as facilitate connections and streamline support from OSEP. They will talk about their activities to coordinate educational services and resources at the state level. Our future initiatives and upcoming developments is we are committed to producing a self-assessment and sharing and promoting the technical assistance materials produced by OSEP's TAD network, as well as our federal partners. Our timeline is scheduled to release in the next 6 months. The goal of this is to address emerging needs and enhance support frameworks for families. And OSEP is also exploring future data collection to identify issues and trends relating to military-connected families. And that, I will now turn the presentation over to our DoD federal partners to share more information with you. Thank you, Karen and Jeremy, for joining the call today.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Terry, and I am a program analyst with the Department of Defense, Office of the Secretary of Defense, Office of Special Needs, and we go by OSN for short because the rest is just a big mouthful. I am here today with my colleague, Jeremy Hilton, and we are going to be talking to you about some of the resources that are available to you through the Department of Defense to help you support military-connected children with special educational needs. Oh, this is just some boilerplate slides. Here's our disclaimer, important, and the introduction. So what I'm going to do for you right now is I'm going to give you a brief understanding of where the Office of Special Needs sits in Department of Defense, because I think it's important to know how these policies that we produce at the Office of Special Needs, how those are distributed and used across the military service. We're going to talk about Office of Special Needs in particular and what we do. And then I'm going to go over some of the resources we have available. These are free resources for you as Part C, Part B, Part 619 coordinators. Whatever your role is, these resources are available to you for free. And we want you to use them because they're specifically designed to help you support military-connected students. And then we're going to talk about the school liaison. You may have heard of a school liaison. We're going to go over that a little bit. And then Jeremy will discuss with you his office, which is the Defense State Liaison Office, and what they do and some of the initiatives they have in place right now to build legislative, to increase legislative support at the state level for military-connected students. And then at the very end, we do have a very helpful slide that will explain any of the acronyms I casually throw out, because I do know we speak in alphabet soup, and Department of Ed and Department of Defense don't always have the same alphabet soup. So there's that, and also some resource slides for you. So you will have a complete list of all the URLs and different websites that we discuss. So you can get through those easily after this briefing. So the Department of Defense is big. And the Office of Secretary of Defense sits under the Department of Defense as part of it, and all the services, each of the three main military departments sit alongside the Office of the Secretary of Defense. So we have here the Office of Secretary of Defense, the Army, the Navy, which also contains the Marine Corps, and then the Air Force, which also runs the Space Force. So over in the Office of Secretary of Defense, we go through the personnel and readiness, manpower and reserve affairs, which don't really mean much to you. But right here, we have the military, community, and family policy. And that's where we start really working on policies and processes that are going to benefit our family members directly. And part of that is the Office of Military Family Readiness. We do consider our programs to be part of family readiness. We want our military families to be up and ready to go. We want them to be fully self-supportive so that their service member can perform their mission without worrying about what's happening with their family members. So the Office of Special Needs is part of the Military Family Readiness Policy branch. And then Jeremy's branch, the DSLO, sits alongside of that. And you'll notice here that these services are not under the Secretary of Defense. They do not work for us, although we write policy for all the services. So they take our policy and they might put a little flavor, a little Air Force flavor on it or a little Army flavor. And that's what starts trickling down through the service to the installation. So that's what you may come into contact with at the installation level, and why it may look a little bit different depending on which service the community you're involved with is closest to. And here's just a few comments about taking care of our military families. Obviously, it's very important, and we have very high level support in doing that. And we appreciate the Department of Ed with participating with the Month of Military Child. This is a big celebration for us once a year, and it's great the Department of Ed is participating and having us share with you today. So thank you for that. My office is the Office of Special Needs. We have two main branches. The first is the Exceptional Family Program, Exceptional Family Member Program, which you may be familiar with. We call it EFMP. This is the program that everybody who has an IFSP or an IEP will be part of. The service member becomes a part of the EFMP so that when they get ready to transition from one base to another, one state to another, their family members' concerns, their special needs are taken into consideration. EFMP covers all family members, all ages, so it's birth all the way through elder care. So while our programs will cover educational special needs and medical special needs, it's across the spectrum, the whole lifespan. And then the other side of OSN is IDEA support. Department of Defense, as you know, has a DODEA schools, and we do have special education in the DODEA schools. And my office provides oversight and policy of those special education services that are offered through the DODEA schools, similarly to what OSEP provides for you. And also we provide early intervention services. And I'm going to talk about those in just a minute. I'm going to talk about those right now. So EDIS is our Educational and Developmental Intervention Services Program. And it's a little bit different. We have a little bit more to it than just early intervention, although that's the bulk of what EDIS provides. But in overseas locations, EDIS will also provide special education related services to those DODEA students with an IEP. So that's a little bit different, but what you'll see at the state side is that these EDIS programs are our early intervention service programs. However, military families will only use EDIS programs stateside if they are assigned to a location that has a DODEA school on the base and they live on the base. So if they're assigned to a location where there's a DODEA school, but they live off installation, they're going to use your services in the Department of Ed or stateside services, similar to any other family in that state. If they live on installation, they're going to be using EDIS schools, and that has to do with funding and funding streams and that kind of stuff. It's a lot of high-level stuff that doesn't really matter for us, but that's just the basic rule. If they are on installation where there's a DODEA school and they live on installation, they need to use EDIS. Otherwise, they'll use state services. And here's an area that we could use your help in, definitely. And it goes back and forth one way or the other. IFSP transfers for our little guys. A lot of times our parents don't necessarily realize that they can transfer the IFSPs from a base in Germany, for instance, to their new base in Mississippi. They don't realize how that works. They forget because there's so many other things going on when they're transitioning from one base to another. Or if they've started early intervention services stateside and they're moving overseas, they may not realize that those services are going to be available to them overseas as well. So your help would be greatly appreciated. You see here, there's a link. This is a live link on the slides, but I also have the URL down farther below and at the end of the slide deck. And you can go on to military installations and you can type in, I'm looking for Aviano Air Force Base and EDIS programs, and it will give you the number to call to let that person know that, hey, I'm sending a family member over to your area, and they're going to need an IFSP transfer. They need to either be transferred within Part C or they're getting ready to transfer to Part B. So there's that. And this is just a list of all the installations, all the areas where we have the EDIS program available. Okay, so here's my biggest resource plug, Military OneSource. Okay, so Military OneSource. If you're not familiar with it, Military OneSource is the one website. I'm trying to think of the word website we use for just about everything. OSN, EFMP, we don't have our own dedicated web space or website. We all use Military OneSource up at OSD. So if you're looking for anything about EFMP or OSN or DODEA, this is where you want to go. And you can use it. Everything here is free. When you start to try to access particular programs, then there'll be a sign-in firewall. But other than that, everything is free. So I'm going to give you 2 hacks to make this really easy for you, because this can be a daunting website where you can get lost easily. So 2 hacks. The first is you can, I'm trying to minimize myself. The first is you can go here where it says Browse by Program Office and scroll down to Office of Special Needs and open that up. And it's going to show you everything that we have within the Office of Special Needs that you can use to help support our family members. So benefits, resources, products, articles, there's all kinds of stuff here. I invite you to just come on and just poke around and see what you can find. Lots of information here for you that you can access, download, and use for free, no question asked. The second hack is if you come to the top, there's this little caret here, hit that, and this is going to take you to all the extra websites that we have available through Military OneSource to help you out. You can see here that's military installations. I just mentioned that, where you can find contact information for any office, any role, anywhere in the military system. You can type in the base what you're looking for, and it's going to give you the contact information. I want to direct you really quickly to Education Directory for Children with Special Needs, and we'll go on that real quick and just show you what we have here. I would love your help here as well. You'll see that this is a directory for family members, so when they're getting ready to move from one installation to another, they can gather some information about where they're going. So this is the early intervention side, birth to 3. They'll come in here and they will have a choice of any state. They can open up the state information. I'm going to go to Virginia because that's where I'm at. And it's going to give them contact information for that state. Okay, and these are military bases on the state where there's an EDIS program and all the information. I would love for you to go into your state information and just verify for me that it is accurate and all the information is correct. And if you do see a problem, don't hesitate to let me know that there's a problem, because I want to make sure that this is correct information we're sending out. The other place that you can go that's really, really helpful and great for you to know about and tell family members about if they're not sure about it or they're not sure of it is EFMP and Me. And EFMP and Me, as it says right here, is our 24/7 guide to the EFMP program. It's going to give them access to everything, all the information that we have in the DoD about the EFMP program 24/7. They can access it from their phone, from tablets, from laptops, from desktops, whatever they need. So that makes it really easy for them. You can see here that they can go in as a family member, a service provider, a service member, or leadership. The information is slightly different depending on what role they choose. We are working right now to create a civilian service provider section that you can go into without needing a CAT card, a common access card, which is our ID card. You can go into and access the support information that you need. That is still in development, but we will let you all know when that is done. I am going to stop sharing and go back to the screen now. gone through this, so I'm just going to plow through it. There's a little bit about EFMP and me when you have a chance to go through these slides, and you'll see up at the top, there is the URL for all of these things that I'm talking about. That's the education directory. We have the Exceptional Advocate, which is a quarterly e-newsletter that you are welcome to subscribe to. It will come directly to your email, whatever email you put in the registration box. We have a podcast series where we cover all the topics of EFMP that can be interesting to you, and you are welcome to listen to those as well, of course. And then we have another program we call One-Up. This is another program we are collaborating with the USDA on, and this is a learning platform we've designed for providers who are giving information and assistance to our military connected families. So that would include you, of course. This is all the content developed for this website is from land grant university. So this is all very high level, provider level information. It's much more technical than what we would produce for our family members, for instance. It's going to give you more about how to do things, why to do things, more theory and research, that kind of stuff. And the great thing about this is, one, it's free, and two, you can earn free CEUs. Yay! So if you need CEUs to maintain credentials, or some of your providers do, this is a great resource. It does kind of have everything from the lens of the military connected family, but of course our families are the same as your families, so the information can be generalized very easily. But I would encourage you to check that out and see what's available there for you, what you might be interested in, and how we can help you maintain your credentials with free CEUs and some really great information. And lastly, I want to talk to you about the School Liaison Program. The School Liaison is not part of the Office of Special Needs. Sorry about that. It is part of our Department of Defense Child and Youth Program. But the School Liaison works directly with Office of Special Needs because they're working with children with special needs. They're working with all of our military children. So you might see a school liaison at a school doing support and assistance for all the students, the military connected students at that school, and then also in part for military connected students with special needs. They do provide some assistance directly with the school. They're not so much there for IEP meetings. They're more for systematic issues or systemic issues that are causing issues, maybe causing issues across the military installation for these kids. They will be working with higher level national groups like MSEC, MIC3, these groups that are advocating on behalf of military connected students. But this is also a really, really good resource for everybody to be familiar with. There's one at every installation. And if you don't know who your school liaison is, that's a great place to start to find out how you can assist your families with special needs who are military connected. And now I'm going to pass this off to Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks everyone for having us here. My name is Jeremy Hilton. I am the South Central Regional Liaison in the Defense State Liaison Office. As Karen mentioned, we are sister offices. I get to work with Karen pretty regularly and our school liaison folks as well. Our office works with your state legislatures and your governor's offices, and as well as many of you in your executive branch agencies on issues impacting military families and quality of life, a variety of topics. The one pager you kind of see in front of you is our 2024 state policy priorities. We create a list of 10 on any given year, and done so for about 20 years, in which we focus on kind of a couple of different major areas that impact military families. Spouse employment is a big one. We work things like occupational licensure compacts. I'm working a teacher compact that some of you might be interested in Mississippi, for example, right now. the MIC3 or the Educational Interstate Compact. That was one of those 1,150 bills that we passed across all 50 states a number of years ago. You may have heard we've worked something called advanced enrollment, which I'll talk a little bit about here as well. And then we have issues that, you wouldn't think would be a quality of life, but they are. We work jurisdictional issues right now where we're looking at the installations as they work from exclusive federal jurisdiction to potentially concurrent jurisdiction. We put all these different policy priorities together, and I'll show you our website is there at the top, the statepolicy.militaryonesource.mil. And then we actually engage people like you at the state level trying to advocate, to educate, and inform to help these policies pass. Let's see, I'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So I mentioned I am the South Central Regional Liaison. I have the unfortunate puke green color of my states. Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi are my states. I am one of 8 of the regional liaisons. We have a couple of personnel back in the home office in the Pentagon. Each of us, generally speaking, are either from a military family. I'm a Navy veteran as well as an Air Force spouse. Again, we bring a military flavor to the states. I live in New Braunfels, Texas, with my wife, who's an Air Force retiree, and our kids. So the primary reason I'm here today is to talk to you about a new issue. This is one of our new top 10 policy priority issues, the state support for military families with special education needs. And for any of our issues, you can go to our website, but this specific URL is the one in which it talks about what we're trying to accomplish at the state level to support military children in the special education arena. As you all know, very likely, military families kind of fit into this bucket of highly mobile families. This is some of the research I had passed along to the OSEP office previously. If you didn't happen to get a copy of it, we'll be happy to provide. This is kind of the research that we have that supports our current policy priority. I'll just be honest with you, there isn't necessarily what I consider to be enough research on to address the needs of these children. This Penn State Speak Military Project is an ongoing project. We're working with the clearinghouse at Penn State. And one of the recommendations I know is going to come out of that is to encourage individuals like yourself and others that you interact with to make sure that we're collecting the data necessary on this specific population, as well as the highly mobile population in general, so we best understand their needs. So here are some specifics that we're trying to tailor to military families, as well as the mobile families in general. We know that as we transition from state to state, generally speaking, sometimes within the state, special education can become a real issue as we make that transition, whether it's an IFSP, an IEP, or even a 504 plan. So what we're trying to do is make sure that that transition is as seamless as possible. So within each of our policy priorities, we try to be cognizant of the idea that states like to accomplish things in their own unique ways. So for this particular policy priority, we have 2 main subgroups, and you can see them here. One is what we call minimizing delays, and the other one is reducing burdens. Both of these issues, we're asking states to accomplish one of the bullets in each of them in order to what we consider kind of meet the objective of what we're trying to accomplish for both military families and mobile families in special education. So you'll see here on the next slide, we talk a lot about advanced enrollment as being an opportunity for military families. This is something we've passed in approximately 41 states right now. And you'll see how it was one of the opportunities says clarify existing advanced enrollment policies apply to students with IEP or 504 plans. That's just an example of ways in which you could accomplish this policy priority that honestly, I think is I think it could be very successful for a lot of different reasons. As I mentioned, we've already passed this policy priority in 41 states. I think Kansas is one that we anticipate getting passed this year. What this does is allow, when a military family gets orders, it allows you to pre-register or register early where you know you're going to be going to that gaining installation of the gaining school district. What some of the research I showed you previously indicated is that military families who have IEPs or IFSPs don't understand that this is an option for them as well. And so one of the things that we're encouraging states to do is implement this in such a way that you always include those students with disabilities. Want to kind of highlight one of our, what is called an emeritus issue. This relates to the Medicaid home and community-based waiver programs. You can see this was an issue that we tackled in 2015 for a couple of years. These are the states in green are states that have implemented our policy. We will be rolling out something similar on the special education front, hopefully soon. You see, we still have some work to do in the states. I know many of you work with Medicaid and home and community-based waivers. So I thought this might be an interesting emeritus issue for you to consider. But just want you to know that as we're coming, as one of the regional liaisons might be coming to your state, I'll be in Little Rock next week as an example. It presents an opportunity to have a conversation about, okay, Arkansas, here's some opportunities. Here's how we think this might work. We'd like to have that conversation about how can we work together to support military families. Again, your feedback is welcome. I know there's a number of individuals in here who have that kind of capability to make a difference for our military families. I encourage you to find ways to get to yes, and we appreciate your support. And with that, I'll invite Karen back on, and I know I see 2 questions in the chat, but open to others.
So, Gina Martin, we do see your question about parents being offered choice. So I do think there's probably some nuances in there, but parents are not required to use the services just because they move on base. If your locality is still providing services in that area, parents can and should still be offered choice, especially given the continuity of care, primary service model, coaching, and a lot of just that natural environments that happens in early intervention services. I think the expectation is that you would work with the base, but parents can and should still be offered choice. We do know that it can be difficult for providers to get on base, so that can sometimes be a barrier. Karen?
And just to piggyback on that, that is actually a recent question we had to pose to our lawyers at our level, just to make sure we understood how that choice worked and what that meant. So when a family moves from off base to on base and there's an EDIS program, yes, that continuity of care that Marjorie just mentioned, they should be offered the choice to continue with the state program or to move over to the EDIS program. They just need to absolutely understand that there will not be any, we can't pay back anything at the state level. So DOD is not going to be paying back any money that the family pays out if they continue to use state services and there's a cost involved in any way. We can't pay that back. So as long as they're aware of the choice and what that might mean for them, they are absolutely free to make that choice. Absolutely. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Any other questions? After the questions, we do have a list of resources that we can also kind of breeze through, but they'll also be included in your in the presentation when that is posted. If anybody wants to highlight some of the best practices that they have in their state to help support military families, I think that that's always good to hear. And that's certainly something that we are talking about frequently at OSEP is how can we encourage states to put in policies and procedures in place, or even just practices that would help support military families as they transition.
I'll just offer one other thing. If you go to the links that I provided related to our particular issue on special education, you'll see a link for what we call our discussion points paper and our best practices. I kind of went through some of the different options the state could implement related to this, but we use what states are already doing. For example, Virginia has some enhanced consent requirements in the state. Maryland last year implemented expert witness fee reimbursement. Washington State just this year shifted the burden of proof. These are options states are already accomplishing. And so we want you all to, as you're able, to consider those as opportunities for highly mobile families in general, but specifically military families.
And Sabrina, I think my email is at the very end on one of those resource slides. But yes, please, Sabrina, if you've noticed a problem with the information on the education directory for your state, I don't want to give out bad information. So I appreciate your assistance with that. Thank you. We have a number of pamphlets that can be downloaded on Military OneSource, the website I showed you. You can just type in the search bar EDIS, EDIS pamphlets, or you can go on to the Office of Special Needs and look up our pamphlets there. But there's informational pamphlets on what EDIS is, how it works. And then, of course, if you're near an installation that has a DODIA base, one of them that we've listed on that one of them that we've listed on the website on the slides, we just are as good as the information we're getting out. So our EDIS personnel, our EDIS providers should be working with our local network of doctors and caretakers to help get that information out. And then you can assist with that as well. If there's difficulty for you, Marjorie mentioned getting on base, work with the EDIS providers there to see if they can assist with that. Let's see, addressing different states' eligibility for Part C. It's always tricky because states have different Part C requirements. They have different Part B requirements. We just really strive, and Jeremy, you can back me up on this, or we really strive to educate our parents, to make them aware that there's going to be differences, or there can be differences from state to state. When we produce information, we try to keep it rather generic to what IDEA says as a standard, with the caveat that states may have slight differences, because we just can't capture all those differences in some of the products we provide.
And I'll just say, when you read our discussion points or our best practices, we work with Karen's office fairly regularly, and they have been helping us work through these special education issues. But you all are the experts. And so if you see an issue that needs to be addressed, a state-to-state issue that would impact military families, right? Bring us up, email me or Karen. If you have a good idea, the list that I put up here a minute ago is not the be-all end-all for solving some of these issues. If a state comes up with a unique way to support military families, what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, that's a great idea, and I'm going to add it to the list for next year. And then the other 50 states will see that and say, oh, wish I had thought of that. That's a really cool idea. So we are open to growth and really appreciate your feedback and support.
And Miranda, I will say that that is a topic of discussion that we are discussing weekly at OSEP. We do understand, states have rights and regulations in terms of eligibility is difficult to get across states. In the county that I'm in, we actually have 2 cities and a county, and all 3 of them have different eligibility requirements for Part B. So when we were transitioning kiddos from Part C to Part B, it was challenging. So that we do recognize that that is a concern as military families are transitioning from state to state, and it is something that we are discussing.
Yeah, and we hear about that quite often. That's one of the top concerns families have. And we do try, that's one of the reasons why we're working together with Marjorie and the OSEP, is to find ways that we might kind of narrow that knowledge gap. The best way, I think, and I am open to suggestions, but the best way I think to help the families with this is just kind of arm them with information so they understand that there's differences and they understand what that can mean, and they can be aware as they walk into a new school system what they're walking into. I think surprise is never fun. When you're working with special education and IEPs, you want consistency and you want to know what to expect. And so we try to give them that. And one of the benefits we have, I know Marjorie has worked in the military system. Jeremy and I both have special needs children. We're sorry if I just gave up your information, Jeremy, but we're both parents of special needs children. We've seen it from the parent side, from the provider side, from the teacher side. We understand and we get it, and it's scary, and we're trying to make sure that our parents have the information they need to make it less scary.
I'll piggyback on Karen's comment to say, my now 21-year-old daughter did 15 moves in a 25 in her 21 years, and we've done more in our 25 years. This isn't easy. But we all think this is worth it, and it's worth working with all of you to find ways to support our families. That advanced enrollment opportunity, I think, is one that I wish we had when we were doing all of our PCSs. And so we will definitely be encouraging states to find out ways to take advantage of that, because generally speaking, we know that school systems and districts and states want to support all families, particularly military families. But to Karen's point is, if we can smooth out this process and front load some of these conversations before a family gets into the district, into the state, and make this smoother, it's in everyone's best interest.
Timothy, the site that I was referring to is the Education Directory for Children with Special Needs. The URL is on the resource slides at the end of the slide deck. You can also get to it if you go to military one source, all one word, .mil. At the very top, there's that caret. You can drop down, find Educational Directory for Children with Special Needs, and open that up and follow the prompts to the Part C side or the Part B side, depending on what you're looking for. And then there's a drop-down menu with all the states that you can find your state and see what we have listed for you as a resource. Yes, you're welcome.
I think some of the other things that we have talked about is, having states look at comparable services when they're having transfer IEPs in. So I think that that's important for parents to be aware of that, as well as for states to consider that. We also want to consider that transition time frame. So to really put in practices in place, if you know that this is a military family with an IFSP or IEP, to really get them started in that process earlier and not have them wait. And there are different regulations in terms of an interim IFSP or getting in that transition IEP that will help support you in doing so. And I think that there are some other ways, inviting EFMP coordinators or your school liaisons to your state advisory panel or your state interagency coordinating council, getting military families on those councils as well. I know it can be a challenge getting families involved, but I think that if you know that you're around a large base or you're around a military installation, it would be really important to bring those people in. So you might be able to understand some of the just some of the nuances that go into being a military family. So those are some kind of easy ways that I think that we can help support states. For states that are also going through the DMS process, I'm one of the DMS members. So one of the hats that I was throwing out there was to say, as we're working with PTIs and the public input process, is to encourage the PTIs to get military families involved in those discussions if possible, as well as getting EFMP coordinators or the school liaisons to participate. Because again, I think that that will give us more of a holistic view of some of the issues that families are experiencing.
And I'll just say one thing to Marjorie's point. If you're having trouble getting a hold of an installation commander, an EF&P office, a school liaison, feel free to reach out to me or one of my colleagues. We will get you the right answer.
I'm happy to help as well.
We don't have any more questions. I am going to turn it back over to Greg Core, who did have a few more announcements. But feel free if you need to email me with any questions or concerns. I am here for that. And Karen also provided her email.
Thank you, Marjorie. And I want to extend our appreciation to both Jeremy and Karen for joining us today. Even though the month of the military child is kind of winding to a close, I know this is information that will be important to all of you throughout the year. Although I had just a couple other short announcements, if you'll just bear with me for a minute. We talked about SPPs and APRs. I did want to remind you, however, that the 2024 IDEA grant applications, both Part B and Part C, should currently be out for public participation, and that they are due to us on May 22nd. So you have a little less than a month. The allocation tables, which I know many of you are waiting for, will be made available as soon as we receive them. There are a few more items we need to complete the calculation so that we know how much each state will get. Please refer to the February 8th OSEP monthly TA call for more information on the IDEA website. I want to thank those of you who have filled out the 2024 Grantee Satisfaction Survey that we send out each year. And it's very important for us to get feedback from you about our services. For those of you who haven't had a chance yet, the survey will be open until May 24th. So we encourage you to respond before that date if you haven't already. Please note that the invitation sender is somebody you may not recognize or an entity you may not recognize. It's the CFI group on behalf of the U.S. Department of Education. CFI group. So don't automatically delete that and think it's spam. That is our survey. The invitation email address cannot be replied to, but for those who need assistance, they may use surveyhelp@cfigroup.com email. Say that again, surveyhelp, all one word, @cfigroup, all one word.com. And lastly, we will only be having one OSEP monthly TA call in May, and that's May 23rd. So mark that on your calendars, because that's when OSER's Assistant Secretary, Glenna Wright-Gallo, will provide some updates. Please note that our regularly scheduled call, which would normally have occurred on May 9th, has been canceled. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of the day. Bye now.